Hello and welcome to a brief video on tips and tricks for answering multiple choice questions. This video is part one in a series and it focuses specifically on understanding the question itself. I'm Katie McNulty and this video is for the Lackawanna College Writing Center. Before you can even think about answering a question, you first have to make sure that you are reading the entire question and understanding what the question is asking. So you'll need to make sure that you read the question over twice. This is so you don't miss any details and you make sure that you're not overlooking a major part of the question. Make sure you understand what the question is asking. Watch out for limiting or distracting words that can change the entire question and the possible answers. Rephrase the question in your own words to help facilitate understanding. And read through all possible options before eliminating choices or selecting your answer. We will look more at selecting answers and strategies for eliminating and taking educated guesses on a later video. So to understand what the question is asking, consider the following, and if you cannot do any of these after reading the question twice, move on to an easier question. So if you are unable to reword the question in your own words and understand the meaning of most of the words in the question and understand the meaning of most, if not all, of the choices, move on, write that number down on your scrap sheet and come back to it later. We'll go over more time management, test taking skills and strategies later on in a different presentation. So to understand what the question is asking, first make sure that you understand all of the words in the question before you move on. Our brains love to do this little trick where we skip over words that we don't know, especially if they're long and hard to pronounce or sound out, especially if we are reading silently, which we have to do when we are taking a test in a room with others. Unfortunately, when we skip these words, we miss a lot, which can lead us to a misunderstanding of the question, which will obviously lead us to an incorrect answer. So if you do not understand a word, use what you do know to make an educated guess about the meaning, rather than just a guess and shot in the dark. Some of these strategies include looking at prefixes and suffixes, looking for root words that you do understand, context clues around that sentence or those words, and then look at the answers to see what they suggest. So let's look at a sample question. You are a pretend philosophy student right now. You're taking a philosophy exam and you've studied for this. So sometimes long questions like this also can be a little overwhelming, but let's look over how to break it down. The vaccine has yet to be ubiquitously distributed across the United States at this time. Because of the limited supply, many feel vaccines should be rationed first to immunocompromised individuals, those with pre-existing conditions, and most vulnerable populations before anyone else, regardless of slowing down distribution. Others believe the vaccine should be distributed to the most people as soon as possible to ensure the greatest outcome for the largest percentage of individuals. Here's our actual question now. Which philosophical principle does the latter support? So we know that we are looking for that there are more than one philosophical principles because we're looking for what the last one or the latter one is saying. So knowing that we're looking for a description of a philosophical principle, let's go back. The vaccine has yet to be ubiquitously distributed. Pretend you do not know what ubiquitously means across the United States at this time. So we do know that it says it has yet to be distributed in this way. So ubiquitously is describing how it's being distributed. It's not happening yet. Let's look at what the next sentence can show us. Because of the limited supply, many feel vaccines should be rationed. Well, if the supply is limited, that means that there's not a lot. So if it has yet to be distributed this way, ubiquitously probably means the opposite of limited, which means probably well distributed or a lot of resources. So let's look at the next part. Pretend you do not know what immunocompromised means. Well, you do know that we're talking about vaccines, which is medicine to prevent people from getting sick. You know that your immune system helps helps the body fight when it is sick. So you can gather that this part means immune system. And you know that compromised means that it's meet in the middle, or it's not in its best situation. So that means that people's immune systems are compromised, meaning that it's not firing 100%. Now, those with pre-existing conditions, okay, well, pretend you don't know what this means. You know that conditions probably means health issues based on our topic. You know that the prefix pre means before or existing before, and our word existing right there means that happening at that time. So we can gather that this means health issues before the vaccine or before the virus. And the most vulnerable populations before anyone else, regardless of slowing down distribution. We can now gather here that it's saying, okay, well, we might need to slow down and, wait on people, or this might slow down the distribution. Then we go to others believe. We can start to gather that this is our latter philosophical principle here. Others believe the vaccine should be distributed to the most people as soon as possible to ensure the greatest outcome for the largest percentage of individuals. Which philosophical principle does the latter support? If you are a philosophy student, you should immediately know that first answer, utilitarianism, greatest good for greatest amount of people, but always make sure that you are going through all of your answers, making sure not only can you pick one that sounds right, but you can cross off ones that you know are wrong. And again, we'll get to those strategies at a later presentation. Also, make sure when you're reading the question that you are looking out for any words that limit or add conditions. So here we have a list of some that totally change the meaning of the question and what it's asking. Words and phrases like all but, not, except, unless, all, most, always, usually, never, first, last, most, least, average, most likely, least likely. There are more words to this list. Be very mindful and read carefully. Here we have a sample question. So shift gears. Now pretend you are a geography student. You've studied for this exam. Here's our question. Institutions have geographical manifestations which include all but one of the following. Again, always read it twice. Make sure you understand what it's saying. Institutions have geographical manifestations. As a student of geography, you know that this means something physical, geographical manifestation, something physical and concrete having to do with geography, which include all but one of the following. So this phrase, all but one, means that you're looking for an answer that is not a geographical manifestation. So if all you saw was geographical manifestation, you went to location and chose A because you know location is a geographical manifestation, you already got the question wrong. Make sure that you're reading the whole question, and now you know, cross that off. Ecological, let's say you're not really sure. Okay, well, C, material structures, is a geographical manifestation for sure, so you cross that off. Spatial patterns, okay, patterns you can see in different spaces, cross it off, definitely one. So now you go to social hierarchy, there it is. Social hierarchy is something abstract, so definitely not a physical geographical manifestation, and you have your answer. So these phrases, very important to watch out for. Shift gears, you are now a student of pop culture. Pretend that you're in a class that you have studied the Academy Awards, Golden Globe Awards, Emmys, Tonys. You are just a Meryl Streep expert here. So the question is, Meryl Streep won her first award for which movie? Now remember, always read that twice, because if you just zeroed in on Meryl Streep, an Academy Award, and went to A, the Iron Lady, and selected it, you would be wrong. Because yes, Meryl Streep did win an award for The Iron Lady, but it was not her first, it was not her first Academy Award. Simultaneously, if you saw Meryl Streep and you zeroed in on an award and you recall that she won an award for Julie and Julia, well, you'd be correct if that was what the question was asking, but that's not what the question is asking. She did win an award for Julie and Julia. That was a Golden Globe Award, not an Academy Award. Going down, Kramer versus Kramer, she did win an Academy Award for this, and it was before The Iron Lady and before Doubt, actually, which she did not win an Academy Award for, but she was nominated. So we have our correct answer. But it would be tempting to immediately pick A and move on if you are in your head and you're rushing and not reading the question. So very important to watch out for these words that limit the answer. Also, make sure that you can rephrase the question in your head or at least break apart parts. If someone was to ask you what the question meant and they were confused, you wouldn't use the same wording, so consider how you would explain it to someone else. Also, always make meaning of the question, tie it to what you do know, tie it to your experiences, tie it to what you've learned in class, see if you can apply it, and that will help you to get a clearer answer. Remember that you cannot answer a question if you do not know what it's asking or if you've rushed through and missed something. Make sure you read carefully because one word can change the whole meaning of the question. And if you have no idea what the question is asking, or it is taking you more than 1 minute to figure out, move on. We'll go through more tips about test time management later. If you'd like any other tips before then, or if you'd like any one-on-one help, please check out the Writing Center. We would be happy to accommodate. Good luck. Take care. Happy test taking.